Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another fun-filled Film Fanatic show. So yeah, hope everyone's doing good. It is Friday at about 11:35. Another beautiful day. Today or yesterday was the first day of school, so that was a trip to be back. Summer summer is still going for a little while. Technically, it ends, um, in another less than a month, but the season itself is definitely winding down. School is starting to, well, school started yesterday, pretty crazy. And work is changing quite a bit, back to my normal schedule for the most part. I wish it stayed like this year round. I love this time of year. It's just great. It gets pretty busy and hectic, but you know, it's it's the best, and so I try not to take it for granted and try to make it all work. While it gets a little tough coordinating and everything with shows and everything during the summer, but it's great. I have one more. This weekend is the last really busy weekend. After that, it starts subsiding a little bit, steady, and have a couple of weeks where it's kind of busy, but it's a great time. And the other big thing that I have to announce is, and we we just realized, well, I just realized too, pertaining. This is related to my band Quantum. I realized too that it's been about a couple of years since we put out an album, and about 2 years ago we we released an album, but we when we recorded it. We put it out in June of 2022 already. It was 2 years ago, which is crazy. And we recorded the album that December. And before we put out that album, it was about 4 years since we put out any new music. And so it had been a while. So we were fortunate enough during that time. There was a year where we didn't play at all because of COVID and things. But then after a year or two, we started playing a lot of shows again. So it was really nice. But during the downtime, I wrote a lot of new material. So on one hand, it was really good, and then we ended up playing a lot of shows, and we got a chance to play the material a lot and kind of flesh it out more and test it out for audiences and all those kinds of things and seeing what works and what doesn't. That's why I love playing live the most, because to me it's like the ultimate kind of testing zone. And so we had, because it had been about 4 years, we had, ended up having quite a lot of new material for Quantum. So, and the stuff was, at one point, because of the shows that we had a lot of shows that, for uh, roughly about 2 years or so, or a year, we were, I, the material I felt was really ready. So Mike and we ended up booking time, and we went into the studio, and we decided to, like, basically just, we had a whole bunch of new material, so we decided, well, we'll just like record everything and just seeing, and then after, if we get good takes of everything, then we'll spend a bunch of time just kind of sifting through all the material and trying to compile, arranging an album. So we ended up doing that during the winter time, and we got a lot of recording done. And by the time we were done, we had almost like 30 songs recorded. It was kind of crazy. The thing that was helpful, I mean, because usually if you're going to go in the studio and record that, amount of music, it takes a lot of time and it's a lot of work. But we were fortunate because we had, I had been sitting on the, or as a band, we had been really sitting on that material for quite a while. So some of the tunes were actually quite a bit old, a few years. So even by that point, so we had, the tunes really worked out. We just played them a lot. So when we went in, we were able to just kind of basically knock the tunes out. So it was really fortunate for us to be able to do it that way. So it didn't take very much time. If we didn't have the shows and those kinds of things, it would have taken much more time. But we ended up recording all this stuff, and then we realized, wow, we have enough material for like 2 albums worth of material. So, like almost like a double album concept. So then we had this idea of putting out all of this music as a double album. But then I kind of thought, well, it's tricky right now with as far as being a band or a musician and trying to sell music. So we figured, you know, we'll split it up. So I came up with this. The whole album is kind of it's kind of a concept album. But so we decided to like break up the albums, and we recorded 2 albums worth of music, and then we had the first album, which was released in June of 2022, and it was called, the name of the album is In Dreams I Saw Chapter 1. And then so we put that out, and then that was really fun. We actually sold quite a bit of those albums, which was great. And so during that time, we had a second album, which we were going to put out at some point. In Dreams I Saw Chapter 2. And basically it's the second disc of this album set. But we were just waiting for the time and the place, and when we think it could be a good time. So it's been 2 years, which is crazy. So we decided, without really thinking about it, I guess. It just kind of happened. An opportunity came up. And so we decided to go ahead and book it. So we're going to have a CD or an album release show at Hey Sailor on November 8th. So very excited about that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have some friends also be involved with the show, playing music. So stay tuned. There'll be a big, thing in the next few weeks or so, and like kind of an announcement of what all that whole thing is going to, entail. But it's going to be an album release show, and it's going to be at Hey Sailor. So I'm very excited, and it'll be great to put this album out, because since this album or albums have been recorded, we have a lot of other material that I want to shift gears and move in the direction of working on that. So stay tuned to that for those information, for more information on the show. And there'll be when everything hopefully comes into working out, the idea that I have around the show, I'm going to try to get some other shows going possibly around it. So, but very excited, very, very pumped to do it. We've had a couple CD release shows in the past, and they've usually been during the summertime, which has been great, but figure why not just do it, just put the album out. So we'll see. And Hey Sailor, all around, it's pretty much the best like venue around. So so very excited. And this will be, I almost kind of lose track, but our first Quantum album, which was a self-titled album, was the first album we put out. And then after that, we put out our second album, Digital Palace. And then after that, we put out In Dreams the Stars Beneath Our Feet, which was our third album. And then In Dreams I Saw Chapter 1. So we have 4 full-length albums out, and this will be our 5th full-length album out. So I'm very excited. And we have, since the time has gone by, there's a lot more new material now too that we will eventually record and do some stuff with. And we've been playing this summer and this fall, winter. We did. We had a pretty busy year, so we got to play a lot of the newer tunes out. So very excited. So anyway, today's show is on a movie that I have been really, really wanting to get to. Not only I wanted to buy it, but I wanted to see it because I don't believe I had ever seen it. I might have seen it when I was a kid, but and I probably did. And it was all because of the cover. Again, I'm a product of the '80s. I grew up in the time of VHS, so I was, that was the decade for me. And when it comes to music and especially movies, like that really was the decade that I remember the most as far as being the most kind of impactful or influential. With I grew up at the time of VHS, and rental stores were readily available. So this was one of those movies I remember seeing as a kid, and I don't know if my parents would let me rent it or not. I don't think they did, but I think I did see it just because of the graphic cover. And of course, like the attraction to buying music, looking for albums where you go through the bins and you see something that has just, amazing artwork. That is a big, even now it's a huge selling point. And this was one of those albums, and this is Abel Ferrara's Driller Killer. And I picked this up the other day, and I was so excited. I couldn't believe that I found it, and it was cheap. It was only $20. This is a beautiful restoration. It's like a 4K version. And Abel Ferrara is he's a lunatic. He's the director, but he's an absolute lunatic. This movie came out in 1979. Abel Ferrara has made, so many, so many kind of iconic independent films. He's definitely a force, and he's I mean the probably one of the most notorious movies he ever made with Harvey Keitel is The Bad Lieutenant, which is just an amazing film. I don't know if I've done a show on that, but I gotta make a show on that. Incredible movie, super nasty. And then one of my all-time favorite movies, one of my it probably well, it's one of my all-time favorite movies as far as the vampire genre, and that is The Addiction. Just an amazing Christopher Walken, incredible movie. And he's made some, other interesting, really wild and strange and low-budget movies. But I have to say, The Driller Killer, this movie is one of the nastiest movie experiences I've ever had. Like, this movie, it's funny, too. Like, if you look up information about The Driller Killer, and the other thing that I did not realize, and I forgot, because I think I did see this as a kid, but it's been so long, like 1,000 years, I didn't realize that Abel Ferrara actually is the star of this movie. And this movie is, it's funny, when you look up information about this movie, and even when you read about it, it's kind of regarded as this like strange like art house movie, but then it's also considered like this trashy, sleazy grindhouse movie, and it like so it has this appeal to like both of those audiences, which I think is kind of funny. Um, but I think this movie is definitely one of the most raw movies I've ever seen. It is the only way to put it is it's one of the nastiest movies I've ever seen. It's so raw. That's a characteristic of a lot of Abel Ferrara films. Um, the Addiction, A Bad Lieutenant, those movies are super super raw. But I have to say, this was his first movie, and this movie is even more um, nasty. I mean, it's really it's brutal as hell. The kills are just super gruesome. It's also a slasher movie, which I didn't really realize it was actually just it's really a straight up slasher movie. It has a thing of where it does kind of dive into the mind of the killer and the psycho, who is the lead character, played by Abu Farrar. He plays this painter who kind of has all of these, all these walls are closing in on him. He's like, he's really struggling, and he kind of has this miserable existence, and he's getting all this pressure put on him, and he's and you kind of realize too that he is schizophrenic, and so he ends up crossing this line and he starts murdering all these people with a drill, and it's totally insane. But it's an amazing movie. I mean, it's I can see it being looked at as kind of this art house film. It definitely has that vibe. It also has this style which you know, this style that's kind of like talked about a lot, which I really like, cinema verite, where it's like a cinema verite, like it's a style of filmmaking where it's definitely put in the way a film is shot in that style. Usually, it's everything is shot in a very extremely naturalistic um, environment. Everything is where it almost has like a documentary kind of vibe to it, but everything is very naturalistic. It's very raw. Um, Two directors I think that are regarded as where they definitely have that that aesthetic, that cinema verite. Francois Truffaut, who was an amazing, legendary French director, incredible filmmaker, and then also another director, John Cassavetes, amazing American filmmaker in the '60s and '70s. He was also one of the leads in Rosemary's Baby. He plays the husband. But yeah, so it has that vibe to it too. But it's definitely like, I also feel like this movie again. It's got this art house quality. Like some of the scenes are just gorgeous and beautiful. As kind of gross as this movie actually is, so it has this interesting kind of juxtaposition. Like there's some scenes and things that where the way it's shot, that it's just gorgeous, but yet it's like vile at the same time. So it's very interesting, the combination of the styles. You have the art house, the grindhouse, cinema verite kind of thing. But I think of this movie as like just pure sleaze, pure grindhouse. I mean, it's nasty. Kills are just gruesome as all hell. It's a great story. The ending is like kind of shocking. Um, Great music. The This movie is like a punk rock. It literally is like putting on a really nasty punk rock demo. Like it's just so, yeah. And this the transfer of the Driller Killer on Blu-ray is from 4K is incredible. There's some really good special features. This is an Arrow release, but man, it's such an such an awesome movie, and I was so super excited that I got this and that they had it there at Bull Moose. I discovered I ended up going to Lewiston, Maine. I was kind of in the area, about a half hour away, and I realized, and I saw on my phone that there was a Bull Moose that I'd never been to, so I went to it, and it's on the outskirts of, um, it was like a half hour from where I was, and it's a huge shop, and it was great, and so I was like, fuck it, I'll go there, and they had this movie, and I super excited, and so yeah, the next few shows that are coming your way will be movies that I bought at this other location. So yeah, 1978, The Driller Killer, nasty as fuck movie. Yeah, one of the most raw movies I've ever seen in my life, and I've always said slasher movies are my favorite, and this is a killer movie. Abel Ferrara is just a totally insane individual. So thank you again, and we will see you next time. Peace.